Coming up in this episode.
Nobody hates it more than a drummer when they go to do their favorite air drum fill along with the drummer and the drummer changes it. No, you know
or
what I
he
mean?
just
Like,
keeps drumming through it and you're like, what?
and it's like, no, that was the best part on the recording.
I just Googled like Alanis Morissette AI. I was like, you know what? We'll create our own.
If we can't get her, we'll go viral for using AI.
I'll do it and change my voice. No, this is going to sound really insane, but the truth is,
I first became aware of Mice and Men about a decade ago, around the era of their Restoring Force album, and I was immediately grabbed by the combination of heaviness with some screams, the groove as well, the instrumentation, and these big sing-along choruses. And I've enjoyed their music over the years since then. Now, they're about to release their 9th studio album, if my maths are correct, called Another Miracle. And I'm delighted to have some time today to chat to bassist and vocalist Aaron and also drummer Tino from the band about the latest album and where we find the band today. So welcome, folks. Thank you for your time here today. Now, I've heard the album and I adored it. Now, what's
awesome.
interesting, big fan. We'll get into details of that in a bit. Now, as I said in the introduction there, I kind of came on board around the Restoring Force era, and I've enjoyed your music over the years since then, and you've expressed all kinds of different edges to your sound. But for me, and I think I've heard from others as well, there's something about this album that is kind of reminiscent in a way of what I enjoyed, especially about the Restoring Force era. Is there anything about your approach to this album that you think might have harkened back to some of those days from a decade or so ago?
Well, I think if it comes across to fans that way, then clearly there has. But for us, for me personally, no. So it's almost kind of frustrating because the process for every record is always the same. I think maybe with this record, there was sort of a resurgence in there's always a hierarchy when you're creating anything of importance of what you're trying to accomplish or what you want, to serve instead of others. So I think maybe energy and the actual energy of the songs might have been a little bit higher up on the hierarchy compared to other records where we maybe focused more on experimentation or melodicism and not that we didn't with this one, but I think maybe just given the circumstances of having come off of an album tour, which was our first post-COVID, being sort of fresh off the road, I think that probably put us in a very similar headspace creatively, where energy is sort of at the forefront of our thought. The stage is not too far, pardon me. The stage is not too far away at that point, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you make records, the stage is far from the studio, but for us, it's sort of, that's probably the only thing I can think of. Because logically, we never go into it thinking, "Oh, we're going to approach this differently." It's like,
we're going to make. We want this to sound like this album, especially we definitely almost go opposite of that and be like, we don't want it to sound like our other stuff because we've already done that. Those songs already exist. But I think there's something about the emotion in the music and the balance between melody and heaviness that we've found on this album in these songs, I think is it felt very, very balanced during Restoring Force because that album is about balance. It's about bringing the Restoring Force, bringing things back to balance. So I think in a lot of ways, we've found that again on our it's kind of like I guess because we've been self-producing these last 3 albums, Echo, Tether, and now Another Miracle. It's kind of like third time's the charm. Like we got it.
Oh, that's another synchronicity, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. Where this is kind of like we tried to bridge the gap on the first 2, and then on this third one, we've really found the balance of what the sound is that we're trying to create and how we do it best. Like we've been writing 9 albums now. So like, how do we elevate everything? And I think on this album, we figured it out in a way that felt comfortable to us. And we were able to have that come across in the songs, in the music, to where other fans can pick up on it. And maybe Restoring Force was the last time that we kind of had that kind of feeling with the music, I guess.
Restoring Force was the third record working with producers, and this is the third record working with ourselves as the producers. We're really cracking the case here, boys.
Yeah, for sure. Breaking new ground.
Yeah, we're getting deep.
Yeah, I mean, and also to be very clear, I'm not suggesting you're just you're treading old ground you've already done, because the production level of this is phenomenal as well. It sounds quite different from there, and also I found that every song on this album stands on its own. It all has, each song has its own space. They're quite creatively different in their delivery, but it's exciting to hear that even after all these albums, there's still kind of new pieces of the puzzle to uncover and things you're still honing and kind of exacting in on. Where you're trying to go creatively and in the process there. I was wondering whether, go on, Aaron.
I was going to say you're right. And I think, I mean, for us, making music is a lot like treasure hunting, where you sort of, you uncover little gems when different people have different ideas that sort of converge, and it's an exploratory process more than it's, about making something. It's more about just uncovering things through experimentation, and just creating music together. Making music's really just about making music.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah, I just heard myself like say that, and I was like, you know what? Never mind. I quit.
Yeah.
I think where I was relating to that potentially is I've heard like sculptors talking about when they're sculpting, they'll have a hunk of rock, but they envisage the art within it, and they just have to try and get into the rock to get to that art that exists. Is that kind of what you're alluding to when it comes to songwriting? You're sort of chipping away at ideas until it forms into something that feels satisfying. Like how do you know? This riff is ready, we can move on, or this vocal, I'm satisfied with this chorus melody at this point. Is that a case of trying and testing and eventually iterating before you go, I think we're there?
Yeah, I think it was Michelangelo that said, like, I don't create the angel in the marble. Like, I see the angel in the marble and I set it free. And it's sort of like, there's a lot of that in music. There's a lot of that when four different people with four different sort of eclectic creative palettes come together. Yeah, I don't know.
It could be, it's tricky, I think, as well, with lots of people involved to find that balance. But what I love about your music in particular is you're all clearly very good musicians, and you have moments within songs where you can exercise that flair. But it feels to me like everyone is working song first and trying to stay out of the way of the main purpose of a particular section. Is that resonating with how you would write?
We learned that early on. And one of the producers that we got to work with, David Bendith, taught us that on Restoring Force, when we did that album, that whatever you're contributing has to be for the song. The song is the most important thing. It's not about each individual instrument or whatever. And that it really, every part that you have in the song has to serve the song as opposed to serving yourself or whatever like that. And I think through practice of making all these different records and learning that pretty early on, it's something that we've always kept in mind in our songwriting. And I think now that we're in charge of doing that, we remind ourselves of that, and like it's like a choose your moments, you know what I mean? And like make it where it makes sense for that part or whatever, and let the song breathe and let the song have the important elements. And to finalize the song, it needs all those elements, because all those elements together are what make the sound of Mice and Men, and why whenever we release a song, it'll always sound like us, because those are introduced in that level to allow the song to really sing in that way.
Yeah. I guess if you don't overcook it, the personality of the musicians will come through regardless. You don't have to kind of force that in. And then you can have moments like I was listening to, in particular, the song Obsolete. And there's moments in there where the bass pops out. I mean, obviously, there's the kind of bridge moment where it has a bit of a moment. But even in the section before that, there's tying notes in between the loops that it can tie it together in a subtle way, but also adds a bit of flair. Is that something that's at the forefront of your own kind of writing with the bass? Like, well, it's the bass obviously within the name, it's the bass line, it's the foundation of a moment, but you can also make extra kind of flair moments to connect things when it makes sense to do so, perhaps.
Oh yeah, and you can totally, my favorite thing about the bass is you can totally delineate too. Like the bass also drives the melodic, the melodic pathway of the song, and so you can definitely sort of take it where you want to. But going back to your point before, for us, the thing that we enjoy the most is seeing, to make it akin to a movie. It's like we like making the scene the best the scene can be. And it's like the scene is about everybody coming together for the sake of that. It's not about any one actor trying to do too much, because it's like one bad actor not pulling their weight and the scene sucks, and then one actor doing way too much and tries to make it look at me, and then the scene sucks. And so for us, that's always the exciting thing. The other thing too is in the studio, we're very collaborative amongst ourselves, and we're also like we're very good about checking egos at the door. So it's like everybody does everything on these records. It's like everybody's like, I guarantee you, like each one of the four of us has played guitar parts on it. Each one of us has come up with keyboard melodies and random things and bass lines and vocal melodies. And hey, let's try this harmony and it's like, so we all kind of have our hands everywhere, like all over it. So it's not, to shatter the illusion kind of that like, well, it's just one person is doing guitar and one person's doing bass. It's like, no, we all kind of just collaborate on the songs, and there's four musicians that are multi-instrumentalists that can come together and make the music, and then live, then we figure it out.
And I think because we have such a good system in place to be able to collaborate, that's why we're able to consistently put out albums and write albums and get to album 9 and be like, all right, sick, we're already working on the next one. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're just always writing, and we always, inspiration kind of strikes at any moment, I guess, with us. Whenever we're on tour, we'll have a really electric show and just be inspired to write or do something. And I feel like because we have a good like workflow with how we write and how well we work together and collaborate, I think that's what's allowed us to be able to make all these albums and to be able to have them sound just as exciting and have it be leveled up each time. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of keeps us going too, is like, damn, like there's still so much left to write that we don't even know yet. You know what I mean? Like, cause we thought the last album was the best stuff we could do. Now we've elevated a really that.
Cool idea once the record's done, and it's like,
yeah, always.
We'll bank this for the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think I was interviewing Within Temptation, and they were saying like, I still believe my best song I haven't written yet, and it's the thing that drives them. Like, yeah, those are fine, but I think my best one's in the future. And if you have that excitement and belief, you might find that. And it sounds to me you've got a bit of a rare thing there. If you're all multi-instrumentalists and you can contribute in that way, then you have a shared interest in every part of the song, and then there can be less a thing of, well, what about my part? I have to do this thing my way. I as well, like,
yeah, it is looking at it more of a song perspective, like an overall perspective as opposed to like a parts. But we are kind of like a sum of all parts anyway, so it is kind of like putting all of that stuff together, almost, I guess, like a puzzle or whatever.
And it's so weird. We've had this ethos for so long that when you said that, I just tried to put myself like in the mindset of like, well, no, my parts, and I need to make sure like I stand out enough. And like, it's so straight. Like that is such a weird way of thinking about making something creatively for me. It's just like, that's such a weird thing. Like, I need to make sure there's enough of me in there. It's like, well, if you're collaborative, then there will be, and there will be as much as you want to put in there. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. And that's, we really enjoy the process of making music together. And that's why we're 9 albums deep, because we keep making, 13, 14, 15 songs every year and a half, like clockwork. Yeah. And we just, I don't know. It's something that we enjoy doing. So the process never stops, and it never has to, because that's where a lot of the joy and a lot of the reprieve from everything else that comes with being in a band, you know, and having a career in music. It's like, that is our comfort zone. So it's kind of nice that is also sort of the, you know, what I believe we should be most focused on, you know, not TikToks.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, every band's different, I'm sure, but yeah, no, I love that. And also, I'm going to take with me that analogy of the kind of movie scene example, because like a movie scene can be amazing, but there's so many that have gone viral in their own way because there's some extra in the background who's like doing something completely different. It's like, it takes you out of the scene entirely. And if you're trying to show off a certain musician thing in a moment where like, this is about the vocals, can we not just give that some space? Then it's going to kind of, I think in theory, ruin the experience of the audience.
Yeah, I would argue that the whole idea of look at me, look at me, look at me completely defeats the purpose, because the whole idea is that you don't want the audience to see a movie scene. You want them to be lost in it. You want them to be able to, you know, suspend their disbelief and like live a scenario for a little bit. So it's like you're sort of and it's the same in music, you know, like a lot of my approach lyrically is that when things are written in the first person, I don't want the audience to think of me, of Aaron Pauley. I want the audience, when they hear the word I in our song, to think of themselves. You know, that's the whole goal, is that we disappear and that the song is what is there and not us. That's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it.
Flag in the ground. Well, there's as an example I can think of here where I think you strike a great balance for all of that is, I'm thinking specifically for drumming, the song Troubled Water, the drumming in that, you go fucking
so good.
off.
Thank you.
It's so good, but it's not
thank you.
showboating. It's in the transitions between sections. It's drum fill moments. And it's, if you're not a drummer, you might not even necessarily notice them because it's kind of consistent throughout the song. But as a drummer, I was watching going, oh, fucking Jesus.
Thank you so much.
The flams, sir, were fucking gorgeous. Yeah. How did you approach that song in particular? You're just kind of like, I need some sick fills that just bury themselves around the toms.
Yeah, every song's different, you know. That song has such a cool groove. It's got swagger, man. Like, yeah, I just kind of, I heard the bam bam and I just kind of like bobbed my head, and I'm like, man, like it definitely needs something groovy, something spicy. Like there's just an attitude in that song that I think, so if it's there, I kind of have to write to it, you know what I mean? And with drums and rhythm, thankfully I have a lot of experience doing that. So I think a lot of our songs can be a little more straightforward, but a song like this, I felt like had a lot of room to breathe. And it's songs like that I feel like I can really go out and be a little more creative than just a bit more of like a rigidy, more metal song. I felt like this song has a lot more flavor and a lot more spice to it, that I was able to kind of throw in those fills and Aaron's vocals and I was like, oh, that's a perfect spot for as it reaches my neck. And then it's like, there's nothing there. And I was like, oh, I could put like some tasties in there, throw something in there before he starts singing again. And it really is, you know, like just something that I always keep in the back of my mind from, working with producers is like, you know, you want to find things that serve the song, and kind of like if a drum fill works, you know, like I'll probably write a couple versions of the song before we ultimately decide on what it is. Different drum fills, because we're so involved in the writing process. It's never just like okay, that's the take. You know what I mean? That'll be one take, and then we'll swap in some other stuff and see how everything sounds.
Oh yeah, with Troubled Water, you had a whole verse because you at one point were like, I think this might be too much. You sent a second one in, and it was like, it's all right, but the other one's cooler, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And so it really is like, it's cool when we're doing it ourselves that we can make those choices, you know, and to kind of be like, here's a couple versions. Which one do we like the most? And, you know, who's to say what the right one is, but you'll know it when you hear it. And so I think once we add vocals on there, it opened it up to kind of like making a little more spicier choices. And this song specifically on the album is a really cool one that I think just the groove, and I couldn't wait for fans to hear it because thank you for saying that. And I totally did that on purpose. You know, like I wanted to throw in some cool stuff, and I'm glad that people are hearing it and enjoying it too. You know, it's fun to play, and if it's fun to listen to, that's even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think drummers everywhere are going to be enjoying that, being like, "Oh yeah, that's absolute fire."
Yeah,
and
as
then
the kids say, "You snapped."
Ah, thanks.
I don't even know that phrase. I'm fucking 39. I'm already at the stage. I'm like, there are phrases I just don't know because I'm too old. I don't think I know.
And I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just not going to learn them.
Yeah,
I'm just choosing to. Like, I'm gonna. It's not ignorance at this point. Like, I'm just choosing not to learn the new lingo.
Just gonna nope.
I'm just stuck in my ways now. You know.
But coming to you, Aaron, on that song in particular, there is a standout moment, of course, which is this big sustained scream when the instrumentation kind of fades away. But what I love particularly about that is the inhale of breath at the end of that. Was that something that upon recording it, you went, oh, actually, I do need a big gulp of air for the next thing, and we'll leave that in as kind of a fun sound? Or were you thinking, what if I do a big gulp of air that kind of adds to the desperation of the energy to that? How considered a choice was that?
No, that was just like a one take kind of thing, which was actually really funny because I had to basically kind of do it out into blank space. Like I did it. This is going to sound really insane, but the truth is I did that part just to the click track with none of the music because I didn't know how long I wanted that first one to go with the musical dropout. And then B, I didn't know how long I was going to go after the fact, which is why I think it's so weird. It's like 7 counts or something. I remember when we shot the music video, when we actually had the click, thinking, oh, yeah, I should have maybe made this pause like an actual even count of beats, but it's not. But yeah, no, that was just more about capturing the feeling. And it's funny because I sort of tracked it out at the end of a take. So it's sort of like that part, all of us will drown, was a punch in. And then that was just like a one take sort of thing where it was like, yeah, that's, I don't know. So, for me, a lot of recording, and it took me a long time to sort of change my thinking about this, especially being the person that does the mixing and mastering. But it's music is so much more about the feeling than what you're hearing. You know, what you're hearing is just the vessel for the emotions to get to you, you know, from the sender to the receiver. But yeah, so it was way more just about capturing that feeling rather than even the way that it sounded. So I'm glad it sounds cool. But even if it wasn't a perfect scream, or it wasn't and it's not I don't know, it's definitely not perfect. It's
That's
just,
what's cool
it's a
about
one take
it,
kind of thing. But
and
it is what it is, and it's a one. It happened. You know?
Yeah, it has that awesome characteristics, and I think with a lot of what makes a good take is is it raw? Is it emotive? Does it capture something that isn't just rigid and it ends here perfectly? We like the humanization of it because we're humans, and I think that's definitely something that as we're self-producing ourselves, we want people to know that we're humans behind the instruments, and we think that that's a really cool. If we can show that, you know, then that's an important part of how we want our songs to sound, is that it's humans creating them, it's not just robots. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more about trying to capture moments than create moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that my theory that I'm continuing to bolden up is that that's what helps people connect to music is the human intricacy. I mean, obviously there's different, depends what you're trying to create. Some things, the purpose of them is to be quite robotic, but I think for the most part, if you have got human voice, then that's the stuff. If you were, unless you're a robot, if you do that scream and you do that take 20 times in a row, with the best will in the world, it'd be really hard for your first screen take to sound anywhere like your 20th, because there'd be something about mentally, even if your voice could do the same thing, you just wouldn't have that same visceral output somehow.
Yeah, and then it's also the second time you do it, it's not the first time you did it. There's something that happens, and it's not all the time. And in fact, I wouldn't even say it's most of the time. In fact, it's pretty rare and uncommon in the studio. But occasionally, there's something magical that happens on the approach of a part when you're going to record it for the first time, because you're not trying to correct anything. You're not trying to change anything. There is nothing before, and this is the first time this is kind of coming out into the world. Sometimes there's something really, really special about that. And there's times where I'll do a take of something, of a verse or something, and then I'll do 15, 20 more, kind of just honing in and improving upon it. And then I go back to that first one, and I'm like, man, there's really something. This was the closest I could get to my initial idea without like reshaping it at all. Like I heard something in my head, and me as a human being was able to get this close on the initial attempt. And there's something like, I don't know, I always find there's some sort of importance might not be the right word, but for me, it's always exciting. And I think especially for musicians and people who love creating, it's like we tend to notice the intricacies and the details maybe more than the audience does. But I love those. I don't know. I like that.
I think that tracks. Yeah, I think your first take is the smallest distance away from the idea, because perhaps your 10th take is trying to do the 9th take better, but maybe the 9th take is like whispers away from your first idea, actually. Maybe there's something in that, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think it's you tend to... sometimes we think we're polishing something by removing the edges, but all we're doing is like taking the shape away, and so sometimes it's, and I guess technically that's kind of what it is, but
that's the challenge in finding the angel in the marble.
Balance.
That's what we're always trying to figure out, right?
Balance.
Now, one of the standout songs on this album is Hourglass, which is a fucking heavy ripper of a song. Did that come about from going less? I mean, there's melody in the vocals there, but it's the singing, screaming sort of. There's a melody buried underneath it, but it is just a heavy kind of banger from start to finish. Was that something you, in writing, thought this album needs a bit of an unhinged heaviness, and Hourglass is going to be it?
Yeah, there's definitely.
For sure.
We, again, talking about the distance between the stage and the studio, that song is just like, oh, we're just going to make a circle pit. Like, we're just going to make circle pits wherever we go with this song. And so that song is very, very, very much built for the stage. But, and then as far as the melodicism, that is me just squeezing water from a stone, because there's not like, it's just whatever the key the song's in, minor, and I think I'm singing like 3 notes maybe total. But again, it's way more about the feeling than it is about I don't know, being like technically impressive or like trying to, again, draw focus. It's like, especially in metal music, especially in a song like that, where it's where it's all about the feeling, like for the vocals of all people to be like, hey, look at me. It's like, no, that's not what it's about. It's about the vibe. It's about the energy and the intensity,
Yeah. It's cohesive from start to finish. I think it establishes an energy in it and maintains it. It's a really fun song. Another standout for me was the song Wake Up, the one that I understand from an interview, you were saying your reference point was Alanis Morissette from the kind of 90s, and you'd approached their management to see if they might go on the song, and unfortunately that didn't pan out. But I was wondering, did you in that moment consider, is there another singer that could kind of replicate that, or how soon did you go, fuck it, I'll do it, we'll keep it in-house from that idea?
I just Googled like Alanis Morissette AI. I was like, you know what?
We'll like,
create our own.
If we can't get her, we'll go viral for using AI.
I'll do it and change my voice. No,
I mean, it was pretty.
No.
Just...
The demo was called Alanis. Literally, that was what the demo was called of that song.
So if we weren't going to get her, it was just off the table, because it was just kind of like written in the idea of like, what if, like, how crazy would this be? But the vibes are there. The vibes could be sick.
Yeah, we even went into it. We're like, we know this is never going to happen, but we're still going to ask. And then we got a few emails back and forth, and then we got the no, and it was like, well, I mean, yeah. What do you mean she said no?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's missed out. Now listen, that's on that. God, that would.
I mean, it's climbing the radio charts right now, dude. It's pretty crazy, dude. It's doing really well at radio, so we're pretty stoked, and I think
it could still happen.
Yeah, but I think, dude, that would be insane. We gotta we'll circle back around. Hey, Alanis, can we do the remix?
Hey, oh, you said no, but no, dude, no means no. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, when that song ends up, you get invited to the Grammys to perform that song live.
Maybe she asks us, though. Maybe she's like, actually.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't happen either. Epic. But it could. No, it won't. I'm like trying to be hopeful about it. Like, hey, it could happen. It won't, but it's cool.
Yeah.
No,
she'll
but
watch this and be like, no.
But I mean, dude, to be honest, like her creating that music is all the gift. You know what I mean? Because that was the inspiration for us. So she does not have to sing on our song, and we still love her. So,
amen.
Fair. Now, yeah, you touched on this briefly earlier, but you're now at the stage where you are self-producing, which is an incredible thing to be able to do. Because again, I think you get closer to your original ideas and having them realized in full form. Production-wise, I understand that came about around the time of the pandemic when studios are getting closed. But I was wondering, do you think that without the pandemic, you still would maybe have got to the point where you're self-producing anyway? You were saying that management were thinking when you sent demos over that this sounds like it's complete. How much do you think the pandemic needed to be the catalyst for that step to be taken for yourselves?
Maybe not the catalyst for us taking the step, but it definitely occurred in those moments. I mean, in reality, I think the definite step was us turning in a demo to our label, and then our label turning around to us and our management saying, cool, when do you want to put it out? And we're like, well, no, we make these pre-production demos and then we go to an actual studio and re-record these with actual producers, and like in reality, I think something in us clicked where we were like, yeah, we've always felt like we've had, we were capable of turning in something that we felt like was representative enough of our work that it would be the template to try and then recreate in some fashion to where somebody in an office says, yeah, this is cool, we can put this out on a label. But like once the label is the people saying like, okay, cool, when do we put this out? We're like, let us make some more. We really actually enjoy this process. And this is like the fun part. What's not fun, truthfully, sometimes, and I will say this sometimes, it's like you have to acquiesce certain parts of your demos when you actually go into the studio. You acquiesce some of that creativity to the producer, and certain things, it always inevitably happens where like your favorite part on at least one song is going to get cut. And it's like now, instead of that happening, there's more of a consensus where if the four of us agree that we like it on the song, then it stays regardless of perceived norms, I guess.
That's great. Have there been moments where that has happened and the part's been removed and you go, well, I'm just going to fucking do that live. You can't stop me. Like, is it those things, or is it more the instrumental details that like layering?
Sometimes, if anything, I'd say live, the songs tend to blossom and bloom even further than when they're released, because certain things, like you said, little we call them tasties, little tasty transitions and things like that, especially in the rhythm section, between like either Tino playing off bass lines or playing off vocal lines. And that's something Tino does exceptionally well, which I will say is like a highlight on this record, is like he drums not only to the song, but a lot of times he'll record drums for an instrumental. I'll go back, record lyrics and vocals, and then he'll send new drums. Like he drums to the lyrics a lot of the times, and I think that it's like it's a underrated language enhancement.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
You're welcome.
That's that's part of the, I think that's part of the evolution of the songwriting process, you know, and the ability that we're able to do these things now ourselves. I feel like I'm able to serve the song better, you know what I mean? Because the song takes shape as pieces are added to it, you know what I mean? And that means that some things might need to be taken out because something new is there that kind of takes up that space much better than the idea that I had in my head. And I noticed, like, you know, specifically for drums, the way I recorded the songs is not how I play them live now. I mean, they're close enough, but there's different nuances and stuff that I feel like as a musician, you're going to kind of interject that as you develop, as you've been playing a song over and over. And a song that, like, I was actually listening to the actual recorded version of an older song, Would You Still Be There? I think I was showing a friend or something.
Oh, dude, we play that song so different live.
And I had so many hi-hat things now, and I'm doing like flams on stuff, and I totally do not, I do not play it nearly as reserved as I performed it on the album, but it's perfect for the album. But there is something cool about bringing the songs to the stage and giving a bit of a different performance, a more nuanced performance that I think the fans can only hear when they come to the live show. You know what I mean? And as a drummer, I do like to keep most of the important drum fills the same, because nobody hates it more than a drummer when they go to do their favorite air drum fill along with the drummer and the drummer changes it. No, you know
or
what I
he
mean?
just
Like,
keeps drumming through it and you're like,
yeah. And it's like, no, that was the best part on the recording. So I try and keep stuff like that on the recordings where, like, for the new album, I'm always going to play bop, bop, bop on the wake up. You know what I mean? To have that snare reintro into the last chorus. It's stuff like that where I want to look out at my drummer homies out in the crowd and be like, I got that one for you. But then I'm going to throw in some other stuff live. And I think that's just the fun, is we have fun performing our songs. We have fun writing them. And I think the live element is something that we pride ourselves in, because it is, I mean, it just feels, and the energy there is so different than the album. And it's like the album, an experience that I think is super important. So having that with the live and letting the songs develop in a live setting, I think is going to be cool. And I'm excited to hear what these songs on Another Miracle are going to sound like in 5 years when we've been playing them for a while, because they all kind of develop as time goes on. And it's just cool to see, you know, as a fan of our band, because we're fans first and foremost, even of the music that we write. Like, we love this music. So it's like, it's fun for us to get to see how it develops and try new things and try things live to kind of like spice up parts or do stuff, you know, along the line. So there's always a bit of an evolution there. I think that's worth having.
Yeah. Yeah, because as you tour and as you play the songs again and again, you get to understand the song better, and you'll notice nuances in it. Oh, I can accent this actually in a different way. And then you get to the point where you almost physically can't play the song the way that it originally was. Like, no, because it needs this accent I've always done in this
for sure.
way.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the fun of it, though. That's the musician stuff that, like, we have fun with, for sure.
Yeah. I would love for Phil Collins to do whatever he wants with In the Air Tonight, except he has to hit that fucking drum fill. If he didn't do that, there'd be a fucking riot. And that's, you know, you've got your fills in your band. You're like, these are the pillars, hit them, and then fuck around with the rest.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I've heard you said before that, you know, your audience, your fans are at the forefront of importance in terms of when you're putting your songs together. You want to create things that they're going to enjoy. And then in terms of what you enjoy is more in the process of doing that, the creative bits and pieces of producing. And I'm curious, though, which I think is admirable as hell, but do you think if you didn't have that mindset of, like, you know, the audience really matters in terms of how they're going to receive this, and if you just went on your own self, do you think your music would end up radically different from what it ends up being with that in mind? Or do you think you'd end up probably making a similar sort of collection of songs as you go along?
To me, it's sort of akin to, like, songs to me are sort of akin to messages in bottles, right? And if you don't have the recipient in mind and you just decide you're going to create a note in your own language, well, when somebody finds it, they're not going to be able to get anything of value from it. It doesn't mean that it wasn't, I think music is twofold. I think there's a lot of value in the creative process. So there's value in creating your own language and writing your own note and corking the bottle and throwing it out. But for us, music as a form of, music as the universal language is a cliche, but it's true. Language is used to communicate. And for us, music is how we communicate with the world. And so we tend to think often of the recipient, while the creativity and, we need to make sure that we really love it before we put it in a bottle and send it out into the world, and we know with confidence that if we love it and we find value in it, that somebody who finds that bottle or the song, will find something of value there too, because ultimately music is entertainment, which is how we all sort of escape the daunting realities that we all face on a daily basis. So,
and we're fans of this music too, so I feel like when we're writing our songs, we love breakdowns, like we love heavy parts, we love big melodies, like we love all that stuff. So I think it's kind of like, if we get stoked on it, we have a pretty good feeling that our fans will too, and most of the time, which I'm grateful for, because a lot of times I guess some bands write music that they're like, oh, our fans are going to love this and we hate playing it, but whatever, the fans like it. You know what I mean? Like, we're so the opposite of that. Like, we have to like it first because we're going to be playing it every night. You know what I mean? Like, it's our foreseeable future. Every time we write a song, we have to assume we're going to be playing it for the next, some of these songs we've been playing for 16 years. So like, we have to assume that when we write them, we will be playing them 20 years from this day that the fans hear them or that we write them. So it has to be something that resonates with us in a way that will carry it through all those years. And I think that with us being fans of heavy music, with us being fans of melodic music and always wanting to elevate our performances, that I think that's what makes it end up that way. And we're kind of always chasing that. And so it's not too difficult for us because we're the first listener. So we're going to hear it and be like, damn, that's sick. And then we'll be like, all right, that's cool how it is. Let's try it a couple different ways and take it down a bunch of different routes and see where we get with it and what is going to be the ultimate way. And when we actually finalize the song and it becomes what it is and it connects with the audience, it's awesome because it initially connected with us first. And for an album like Another Miracle, this album for sure is all killer, no filler. It's every song is a moment. Every song is a vibe. Every song has a feeling of emotion that's all of its own. And I think that's more something that we strive for in the albums, is to make sure that the albums are strong. And we arguably hate the process of singles because we want everyone to listen to every single song just like how they listen to the focus tracks, because every song can and is a focus on the album. And I think if there's anything I could encourage listeners to do, not only just for us, but for music in general, and like, people as listeners, listen to the whole album, listen to these bands' whole albums, these stories that they're telling and the music that we're writing. It's all on purpose. You know what I mean? And I would hope that from a music fan perspective, because I do this all the time, and it's why I love collecting vinyl and physical forms of music. I love listening to things front to back, getting in that headspace of the artist and what they've created, because there's something really special in there that the musicians and the artists took a lot of time to develop. And I think that that's cool. And they want to share it with the audience. And so I hope that when people get Another Miracle when it comes out, that they listen to it that way, because it is a journey and it is fun to kind of jump into another world for 45 minutes or an hour or something like that, however long the album is, and just get lost in it, you know? And that's my favorite way to consume and listen to music. So everyone should do that, because it's my favorite.
Everyone should do what I like to do.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good way to live.
Yeah.
Especially with Another Miracle, the album, that in particular, spend the time with that album. I mean, as I said earlier on, like, there's a sonic consistency throughout the album, of course, but every song has its own lane, its own purpose, its own kind of message it's kind of delivering. And
totally.
I think that's what helps the whole thing stand up. And it'll be, I know you're coming to the UK and Europe soon to do some gigs coming up in the next few weeks. And you've got Gore as support, I believe, in the UK and Europe as well. They just did a tour with you. They're friends of the channel, as it were. I've done a couple of interviews with them. How did you decide on having them come across to Europe with yourselves? Because they were on your American tour, right?
Well, they just crushed it so hard that we were like, our European fans need to see this.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yeah. Yeah, they were awesome. They came out on the tour. We had heard great things of them, and it was one of their first tours too, and we didn't realize that until a couple days in, and we were like, man, this is an incredibly professional band, and they kill it every night. And when we got to know them a little bit more and hang out with them, we realized, these guys are going to be, they've got something going on, and they're killing it, and we got to show them to our fans overseas. So we love when things like that happen, because we love our fans. And again, like I said, we're fans of all this music. So it's cool when we become fans of a band to them, bring them on tour and share that with our audience and stuff like that. So we're really excited to bring them overseas for sure.
It's very cool. Yeah, they were saying that at the end of that tour, you're like, I'll see you later. And you're like, well, see you soon. And they were like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
And then tour happens. No, well, again, well done. Congratulations on a fabulous album. This album is genuinely fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's so kind of you to say, because it's truly a labor of love.
Yeah, I'm excited for other people to hear it as well soon. It'll be out in a month or so at the time of this recording. So best of luck with that release and the upcoming tour in the UK and Europe especially. And onwards and upwards for Of Mice and Men.
Oh, appreciate you so much, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Awesome, man.
On.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. What a treat to chat with Of Mice and Men there, a band I've been a fan of for many, many years, and also to chat about their recent album, which is pretty exciting. So make sure you have a look for that album in your streaming services or your local stores, wherever it is you get your music from generally. I think it's pretty damn good. I'll make sure to add some links as ever to the description of this episode so you can keep up to date with Of Mice and Men in future. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already on YouTube, or follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or throw a positive review on the podcast. That'd be amazing as well. There'll be more interviews like this in future, so hopefully see you again very soon.